Ready to open the hood? UseTool for the tutorials.
And for car parts, the right idea is the Mr. Auto app. Easy, fast, and with better prices than on the website.
You will find the bulk shock absorbers used in the video exclusively on the Mr. Auto website and through the link in the description. Turn your engine off. Pull up the handbrake. Pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. To disassemble the front shock absorbers, it is first important to remove the windscreen frame and the windscreen wipers. Before removing the windscreen wipers, place adhesive tape in order to keep a precise indication of their location at the end position. This will make it possible to correctly position them when reassembling. Remove the nut covers from the wiper arms using a flathead screwdriver, and using a ratchet and a 14mm socket, loosen the nuts. Remove the windscreen wiper arms by making small movements up and down. If they are not coming out, we recommend taking a windscreen wiper remover to facilitate the process. Then, using a flathead screwdriver, remove the 5 retaining rivets from the windscreen frame by prying on the central part. Now, shift the frame. Disconnect the windscreen washer fluid hose. Now, remove the windshield frame. Unclip the primer bulb and rotate it to gain access to the 3 screws on the suspension strut supports. As the components to be removed are very often seized up, don't hesitate to brush and to use penetrating oil to facilitate the operation. Using a ratchet, an 18-gauge socket and a 6-gauge Allen key, unscrew the nut on the shock head by a few threads. You can also use the specific tool used in the video, which will make your task much easier. Then, using a ratchet and a 13mm socket, unscrew the 3 screws holding the shock absorber strut support bearing by a few threads in order to create some play for the next manipulations. In order to change the front shock absorbers on your vehicle, you must lift the front of the car and remove the wheels to have complete access to the suspension system. Loosen the stud bolts on the front wheels, raise the front of the vehicle, and put it in the 2-axle stands. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. You will then be able to take off the wheels. Don't forget to slide them under the vehicle. During this operation, you will work on the steering system of your vehicle. Checks on tyre alignment, when carried out by a professional, will guarantee that your steering system has been perfectly aligned and is in good working order. You now have to remove the stabilizer link bar. It connects to the stabilizer link so that the wheels are always in contact with the ground. To do this, we recommend watching the video How to Replace the Sway Bar Links Qashqai 1. Remove the ABS sensor cable. Remove the brake hose from its housing. Brush the 2 screws of the shock absorber base and spray them with degreaser. Using a ratchet, a 21mm socket and a 21mm open-end spanner, unscrew the 2 screws on the shock absorber base. Then remove them. The base of the shock absorber should now be free. Using a socket wrench and a 13mm socket, unscrew the 3 holding screws on the shock absorber. Once released, hold the shock absorber in one hand and finish off the unscrewing with the other hand. Remove the shock absorber. In order to change the shock absorber, you must now separate it from the spring. You can find a description of the tool used in the video, which we think is most adapted to the operation. Careful, pay attention as you compress the spring. This is not without risk and should be undertaken paying very careful attention. Block the tool in a vise. This will make it easier to use. Install the shock absorber on the tool, then tighten the mobile flange against the spring, controlling its position carefully. Check that they're properly held by the locking studs, then slowly compress the spring using the socket wrench and the appropriate socket. Once the shock absorber is free in the spring, you can use an 18mm offset wrench and a 6mm Allen key to unscrew the suspension strut support bearing. Then remove the suspension strut support bearing assembly and the restraint bellows assembly. Remove the spring from the shock absorber. Recover the lower spring retainer.
Please support us. Subscribe and like the video, that will be really cool.
You will find the bulk parts and products used in the video on the Mr. Auto site and in the link in the description. Take the new shock absorber. Unscrew the lock nut on the stem. Remove the washer. Remove the failsafe with a flat screwdriver. Before installing the new shock absorbers, it is necessary to prime them by pressing the shock absorber rod vertically so as to separate the gas and the hydraulic fluid. Position the shock absorber in the vise. Reinstall the bottom spring support. Then install the foam rubber bump stop. Place the bellows in the suspension strut support bearing. Reposition the spring. Then place the suspension strut support bearing assembly on the shock rod. Be careful to position the base of the spring against the lower spring support. And finish by screwing on the lock nut onto the shock absorber stem. Tightly fix it in place using an 18mm offset wrench while holding the stem with a 7mm Allen key. Make sure it is well tightened. Unscrew the spring compression tool, paying attention to the position of the spring on the lower shock absorber support. You have now finished preparing the new part. Insert the shock absorber, starting from the top part. Tighten the 3 screws on the shock head by a few threads. Thread the shock absorber base into the stub axle. Then put the screws back in place. Then screw them back on. Finalize the tightening of the screws with a torque wrench. Reclip each of the hoses. Put the stabilizer link bar into its upper housing and screw it in. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Put the wheels of your vehicle back on and lower it to the ground. Finish tightening the wheels with a torque spanner. The final tightening of the 3 bolts holding the shock absorber suspension strut support bearing is to be done using a torque spanner once the vehicle is on the ground. Finish tightening the core screw with a torque spanner. Put the primer pump back in place. Reclip the windscreen washer fluid hose. Put the windscreen frame back in place. To reinstall the rivets, insert them into the slots and finish by pressing on the center part. Reassemble the windscreen wiper arms without exaggerating when tightening them in place. Operation completed.
Hello, if this video helped you, like and subscribe.